This is Lisa from MobileTechReview, and this is the 2023 Lenovo Legion Pro 7i. I stands for Intel, and now it's the Pro 7, not the 7 Pro. Okay, so 2023 brings some challenging times for gamers. Either the laptop got a lot more expensive with some brands, Razer, MSI, but keeping the same feature sets, or you got a couple of features downgraded to keep the prices more reasonable. So that's a tack that ASUS has taken in some of their gaming laptop models, and also Lenovo. So this year's Pro is a little less pro, as people say. So the lid and the bottom are aluminum, they're metal, but the keyboard deck and the trackpad are now plastic, for example. Instead of 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, you get 1 gigabit Ethernet, which is still fast enough for most people, and at least there is still Ethernet. So we're going to look at it now. And nowadays, no matter what device you buy, it's just exhausting thinking about dealing with things like viruses, malware, and all that sort of thing. No doubt you've heard in the past week that now you can't even plug your phone into a USB, micro USB, USB-C charger in public anymore because, well, you know, that's also your data port, so they might be loading malware on these people who switch up chargers at public places and stuff. So that's where our sponsor, trendmicro Premium Security Suite, comes in. They'll protect 10 devices for one price, and whether it's your PC laptop, your Mac laptop, your Android phone, your iPhone, and tablets as well, they've got you covered with antivirus and anti-malware protection, and more than that too, because goodness knows you got to have a password manager these days. Check, they have that. A VPN available, so if you're on a public Wi-Fi network, you can stay safe. Check, got that too. And rogue text message checking as well, and also safe online shopping. Be sure to check the link in the description. Use our discount to save. And now back to our video. So the starting price, it changed over the last couple of days. You know, Lenovo experiments with their pricing all the time, even if it's not a holiday. It was $2,070 for the base model, and now it's $2,300. The max configuration, which is an RTX 4090 GPU inside, is about $3,600. So we do have that base model, which has the, shall I say, infamous NVIDIA RTX 4070 GPU. We'll talk about why that is, and an Intel 13th Gen Core i9, the 13900HX, so the higher powered CPU, go that. A couple of good things are still here. That QHD very bright 500 nit display is still here. The bad news, it hasn't been upgraded from last year, just like ASUS hasn't, because they're trying to keep the price down. You got a per-key RGB keyboard with a front light bar, but no more rear lighting with that mark the ports made them easier to see. So that's, oh well, too bad. And of course, being Intel, we have Thunderbolt 4. The port on the left is Thunderbolt 4. There's another USB-C out the rear, which is 3.2 Gen 2, supporting power delivery and also DisplayPort. That one's just USB-C. And that power delivery requires a specialty adapter I think Lenovo's going to offer, because it's not the usual standard for 3.1 on there. But so take that part with a grain of salt. So, as you know, it's a 16-inch display, which is very popular. 16 by 10 aspect ratio. That's how we go from 15.6 to 16 inches on laptops. And you've got full sRGB coverage, not super strong on the Adobe RGB and the P3. You can see the specs there. Again, not really an upgrade from last year's model, but if you're some normal person who's not upgrading every year and you're going from a couple of years ago, this will seem like a nice display. Experientially, it looks quite color saturated and very sharp, and fast response times, 240 hertz refresh rate on this too. So whether you're doing esports or RPGs, you should have enough speed unless you're a professional CSGO player or something like that. GPUs here are anything from the RTX 4070 up to the 4090, and these are high wattage, so yay that. No max Q, no low wattage, so a lot of performance, and that's something that we've come to expect from the Legion. Cooling on here is well done. You will see the insides soon, but liquid metal according to the warning sticker that they placed on the heatsink for the processor and the GPU inside. Thermals on this are good. Noise levels are good on this. Now, this is a gaming laptop. I mean, if you're gaming, it's going to make some noise, folks. That doesn't mean it's totally silent. The good news is it is powerful enough that if you do care about noise, in a lot of games, gaming at native QHD resolution, you could probably drop down a power setting level from the default performance mode that it uses when it's plugged in and still get pretty good frames if you need it to be a little quieter. The Intel 13th Gen Core i9, the 13900HX, is the base of the HX processors, and performance is good. This is not as high powered as we saw on the GT77 Titan, for example, but it's still a strong performer here, and particularly if you are into gaming, more than enough horsepower. But if you're doing, you know, Blender and Adobe Premiere and all that stuff, you got enough headroom here for good work. Now, when I was talking about those GPUs and I was saying the infamous 4070, that's because with the 4080 and the 4090, we see a significant performance jump from the previous generation 3000 series GPUs from NVIDIA. But the 4070, not so much, in part because they did add more GPU model numbers, didn't they? Now we have a 4090 where we didn't before. So they're kind of narrowing the band of performance. But the 4070 performs a lot like a 3070 Ti. So if you're hoping for a big jump, I mean, it's like 6% faster than a 3070 Ti. That's about all. That's why that's the disappointing one. If you're looking for that serious upgrade and you can afford it, the 4080 is certainly a sweet spot. 4090 gets really quite expensive. So unless you can really afford it, I don't know. You only get 8 gigs of VRAM on the 4070. You get 12 gigs with the 4080 and full 16 gigs with the 4090. Now for 2K gaming, typically most of the time 8 gigs is just fine. But for those of you who are thinking about plugging in external 4K monitors and all that sort of thing, that's where it could become an issue, more so in the future. You get the idea. So it's not Lenovo's fault that the 4070 isn't the most impressive piece in this, but it is what it is. But if you're, like I said, a normal upgrading from a 2000 or a 1000 series NVIDIA GPU, then you're still going to be like, oh my God, this thing is wicked fast. And performance in games is very good, excellent in fact on this. And the performance to value ratio is quite good here when you think about spending $3,500 plus on some competing models, right, with the same or similar specs. It's good. The frame rates are not going to disappoint. Everything that we tested, we did 2K resolution, 2K plus, and we had ultra. And in the case of Cyberpunk, we had ray tracing on. Not the insanity mode, just the regular one. We did not use DLSS 3 frame generation. That would be a selling point versus a 3070 Ti because it does insert frames really effectively without ruining the quality in any way whatsoever. So it can make some games more playable. So if you're on the fence between a 3070 and a 4070 and you find them not so different in price, well, the 4070 should be the one that you would pick in that case. The laptop weighs 6.17 pounds, which is 2.8 kilograms, and you get a big honkin' 300-watt charger, which is a little bit more compact than the one that Lenovo used to use, which was a real, it's going to break your foot if you drop it kind of charger. But still, it's a couple of pounds extra there on top of your carry. But by gaming laptop standards, this one is still certainly very portable. Again, compared to something like the Titan, which is a 7.23-pound laptop, it's portable. Now, when we speak about the competition, and like I mentioned, Razer and MSI right now didn't cut back on the specs and features, and in fact, they've upgraded some stuff, and so the prices are rather high. This would compete more directly with some of the Asus models, the Asus Strix G series, for example, and Alienware's M series as well. Now, I know a lot of you think from the old days, Alienwares are really expensive, but right now the Alienware M16 is priced similarly, so don't discount it based on price alone. I mean, it's a good laptop too, but it has a few quirks like that inverted motherboard that makes, repasting and all that a little bit of a nightmare, but there's that. So the 1080p webcam on this, it's decent, it's okay. The keyboard, I like it a lot. Very tactile, 1.5 millimeters of key travel. No, it's not a mechanical, low profile, more expensive keyboard, but boy, it feels nice to type on and to game on. And of course, it's per key RGB, and you can program it, and you can use the built-in lighting effects or set it up the way you like using the Lenovo Vantage software, which is some very good software. You have control over your charging. In fact, you can use the feature that doesn't charge it to 100% to increase the longevity of the battery, or you can turn on quick charging, which is not compatible with the not charging it completely, by the way. And you've got GPU overclocking. And what's new here is, besides the usual performance modes like performance, which is the default when it's plugged in, balanced, and all that sort of thing, you've actually got a custom mode now. So you can actually set your fan curves yourself, your voltages, all that sort of stuff. Nice to see Lenovo adding that. I like that. And we also have Advanced Optimus on board. And all of its glory and sometimes annoyingness when the screen flashes black for a second when it switches between GPUs and all that sort of thing. So we have a pretty immense battery inside, 99.99 watt hour, and battery life is okay, that's all. I mean, but this is a powerful gaming laptop, even running it in hybrid mode where it does switch to integrated graphics if you're not doing any heavy lifting with it. When we did mixed productivity and streaming tests and stuff, we got about 5.5 to 6 hours, and that is with the RTX 4070, which actually wasn't being used most of the time anyway. So not a super Energizer bunny, but, well, it could be worse. We have seen worse. This is a gaming laptop. They just typically don't have fantastic run times. All right, to open this up, well, you know, the good part is Phillips head screws, very visible. The ones in the front are considerably shorter, so remember that when you're putting it back together again. Metal bottom cover, yay. So this is pretty difficult to pry off. It's really takes some patience. And also they changed the design so the sides wrap around. So when you're taking it off, you might think you get this, just take the bottom plate off. Nope, there's a wraparound area that continues to the rear. Once you've gotten your way inside, here's the interior, which looks a lot like the previous generation. 2 large fans, the usual side and rear exhaust system. 2 RAM slots under this cover right here. So yes, your RAM is upgradable, as you'd expect for a gaming laptop. Battery right there, and the biggest battery you can possibly have and still be allowed to carry it on an airplane, 99.99 watt hours. The usual stereo speakers flanking. Decent enough audio on this, not amazing, but by gaming laptop standards, not bad. And just like last year, we have 2 heat shields. One here is where you would put your second M.2 2280 SSD if you want to have a second one. And here is the boot primary one under this plate, and the Wi-Fi card is under here, which is an Intel Wi-Fi 6E card. Since it's just like previous generations, I'm not going to take all that apart, but that's where all that stuff is. So that's your internals, very upgradable, very serviceable. So that's a plus versus the Alienware M16. It's a lot easier to access for repasting. Speaking of repasting now, I know some folks were thinking that they were using Honeywell thermal phase change tape on this, or not exactly paste, you know, the pads. But here we have a warning that they're using liquid metal in here, so be warned, be careful, because liquid metal, if you're not careful when you're taking it off, could short the motherboard out. So there's your warning. So that's the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i for 2023. It may be a little less pro in terms of a couple of cutbacks to features to keep the price down, but a lot of performance for the price. Excellent cooling on this, really strong performance. I like the custom modes now where you can control your CPU voltages and you can set the fan curves yourself if you wish to do that. The display may not have improved from last year, but it's still a very strong full sRGB 2K plus display on board. Per key RGB on the keyboard. Nice tactile experience for the keyboard. Plenty of ports, HDMI 2.1, Thunderbolt 4, Ethernet, you know, it's all there. So it's still certainly a solid value, and as ever, pretty tanky build quality, pretty solid without actually being too heavy. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.